All right, welcome to Four Right Podcast, episode number 5, I believe. This is a special episode. We are going to talk about the Te Arai golf courses, both north and south. So let's get underway. We're going to start with the north first because we were lucky enough to play both of them. We played north first, so let's go with what we remember.
Yeah, I think when we were fresher as well, I think the south was a little bit tougher for us after that round.
So we've got the yardage books in front of us. I'm hoping that I've managed to put the image just here for the viewers.
Let's hope.
The coolest thing about opening this yardage book, maybe not the coolest, but the first thing I recognise, you open it up and it says the playground. And the playground is the putting green.
You are a big kid, aren't you? You really are. You'd enjoy the playground.
But let's talk about the putting green because it's absolutely huge.
Oh mate, you could hit a 3-wood from one side to the other. With some pretty serious elevation as well.
Yeah, and they have a course set up every day. So they have some little pylons on the putting green. You can move them around, little wooden stands, and they have numbers on the flags, and they set up an 18-hole putting course each day. And it really is unreal.
It really is. I think the best part is you've got a little drink holder there on the little pylons just to wet the tongue. But no, it's a pretty seriously cool putting green, and yeah, they change it every day and make different courses. I remember the first time I was there, you know, I've still got videos on my phone of us putting into the dark. The sun is set and we're still out there on the putting green, so it's probably pretty amped that it's called the playground, because we did feel like big kids not wanting to go home.
Next page on the yardage book is the scorecard, and if we just head down to the bottom there, just quickly we'll go over that. So it's past 71, 5,397 metres off the middles, 5,861 off the back tees, and the championship tees are 6,337 metres.
Mate, what did we play off? Did we play championship?
For the purposes of this, yes.
Yeah, perfect. So we definitely played championship. Insane.
We actually played one of the combos, I think. Middle combo, maybe?
Yeah, there might have been a couple of like the back tees. We didn't play the middles. We definitely played some champ tees for sure. But even looking at the yardages, not necessarily the longest course going around, but you know, arguably one of the more fun courses. You know, I think, you know, length is debated a lot in golf courses these days, and Te Arai North and South are probably good examples of a course not needing to be, you know, 7,000 metres for it to be a playable golf course. So that was pretty cool.
You did right. So we look down here, off the back tees, the championship tees, 6,300 metres, course rating of 73.6 and a slope of 127. So slope is relatively low. There's definitely more difficult courses in the country, and I'd have to say that's probably because it's quite generous off the tee, quite wide. A lot of it's just waste area as opposed to long grass where you can lose your ball. And around the greens, it's difficult you need to be highly skilled to pick it clean and hit it close, but you can hit putter from everywhere and get it close enough. It's pretty easy to make bogeys. It's difficult to lose balls. So that's why I suggest my guess is why the slope is only 127 as opposed to something like Kinloch where it's up around 150.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the fact that I don't think any of us lost a ball over the 2 days, maybe, or maybe there might have been.
I think you lost one.
I always do. Lucky I work for a golf ball company.
All right, we'll get through these. We've got 2 courses to get through, so let's move right along to hole number 1. Nice, generous start. 284 metres.
Mate, I cannot remember many courses I've played that has an opening hole like this.
A little drivable par 4.
Drivable par 4. And, you know, when you look at it, it doesn't look too intimidating from the tee. You could almost hit 3-wood, you could almost hit 7-iron. You know, you've got options, which I think is one of the best things about both of these courses. You've just got options everywhere. But yeah, it doesn't look all that difficult, but when you get into the nitty-gritty of where the bunkers are placed and where some of the fescue and the waste area is, you start to think a little bit more, which is really cool.
Big fan of the first hole. It's a great starting hole. You can hit driver, you can hit 4-iron, you can hit 7-iron. as you said. So really big fan of that whole nice, generous start. Being a little bit shorter, but also once you get up around the green, you kind of need to be on your game from.
Well, we know what happened with
hole
me, which we don't need to get into. We can move on. But good
Number
start.
2, we have a par 3, 221 off the back tees.
Yeah, we've gone from a 280 par 4 to then a 220 par 3, which is a wild exchange from hole 1 to hole 2. Nice challenging. I think we all hit 4 and 3 irons into the green. Being a little bit below us, it kind of played a little bit shorter, which did help. I can't remember what the wind was doing for us on the day, but I think that was about right, 4 and 3 irons. Yeah,
so it was a little downhill, and if we look at the yardage book there, it's 66 metres to kind of where the fairway narrows and starts. So while it's long, plays a long number, it's still quite generous. You can hit any club. It allows players of all skill levels to get something down there and run it down towards the green. So
absolutely.
Really cool green complex, and probably highlighted by the fact that on the day, 3 of us hit similar shots. We were 5 metres from each other, all just off the fringe. I think I chipped a 3-wood. Someone else chipped a little 7-iron and someone else nipped a wedge, and we all hit pretty similar shots.
I think we all made par there as well, which is also a rare occasion for all of us. And I think, we'll probably beat the same drum throughout this whole conversation, but just the variety of things that you can do into the green and around the green is very, very cool, and it's like testament to obviously the designers of what they've done here.
All right, moving on to number 3, 353 metre par 4.
I think
something that was quite intimidating, potentially off the tee, as it looks like it narrows in quite a bit, but it's actually fairly wide.
Still really wide, and the visual deception is a common thing. Particularly on the north course. I think there are definitely a few on the south course, but found on the north course in particular. But again, if you look at where the fairway runs out here, 243 on this left side, you could just bang a little 3-wood down there, and you've still got 130 in, which is a 9-iron or pitching wedge, depending on the wind. So, yes, you can play that safe option, or if you did want to hit one with driver and maybe be a little bit more aggressive, aim down the right there and just be wary of the waist area. I remember I went into the waist area on the right after hitting driver. Surprise, surprise. But it still wasn't too punishing. I think good fun hole to play. I don't think you could see the green from the tee, from memory, kind of going up and over a hill. So again, quite visually deceptive and sometimes hard to hit those blind tee shots. Green complex was pretty cool. Looked like there were a couple of places that could place some pins there as well. So just to mix it up a little bit.
So hole number 4, 441 metre par 4. So this is the one, as we drove into the course, we had a little drive down the maintenance road, and it was pointed out to us, and we looked at where the pin was perched, and it was like, oh wow, you cannot get close to that pin. But playing the hole, I remember I hit my tee shot a little bit up the right, and you're actually better off to miss it right at the green, to the right flag, than actually on the green because of the severe tear. It'd be a ridiculously difficult putt, whereas if you miss it just right of the green, you can just roll the putter on.
It's a little putt or a little chip. Yeah, it's not often that you'd rather miss the green than hit it on a certain part of the green. So no, you're absolutely right. That left portion of the green when the pin's up on the right, which it was for us, is just absolute 3-putt material. But very, very fortunate that we got to see it as we drove in. I think I probably would have been a whole lot, more scared about going at that pin if I hadn't seen it. You get to see a little bit of that backstop, which actually helps a hell of a lot for that hole. You can kind of hit it with confidence, knowing that if you go a little bit long, it is going to feed back towards the pin. It's just mash that avoid button for the left part of the green, whatever you do. So, but yeah, another really, really cool hole. And again, just put the pin in any position, right?
Yeah.
So I guess this one here, another deceptive tee shot. It looks off the tee, like that fairway narrows quite a bit, and particularly off to the right. And from memory, I think yourself and Sean hit it into the waist area on the right there. So maybe just got tricked by the designer there, because as soon as you walked up there, just wide, you had so much space on the left, so again, well done to the designer. I think they got us there. But 428 meters didn't feel like it played that long. From memory, it was maybe a full wedge in or something like that. But very, very cool green complex. Looks like you can just put the pin in so many different places there, a couple of different bowl areas, so heaps of opportunities to get it close if you hit it anywhere around the pin.
All right, hole number 6. Now this was one of the most impressive greens walking up to it. It has a huge mound right in the middle that runs the length of it. So it's a wide green but not very deep, with a huge mound or change of elevation right through the middle of it. And as you get up there, you just start imagining all these different shots that you can hit. It's every club in the bag is an option, and you can probably hit it on about 30 degrees different angles, 30 degrees worth of different angles, and manage to get it somewhere near the pin.
The other thing is you can also hit it just ever so slightly wrong, and she's absolutely gone, which one of our playing partners worked out pretty quickly. But it's great, it's very rare that I remember hitting a tee shot straight up the middle, and I've got a blind shot in to this green, but knowing the green complex and what's around it, you can imagine so many different options. Again, going in, hit it a little bit long to maybe bring it back, hit it a little bit left to feed it down. None of that actually worked for me, but it was good imagining it anyway.
The plan was there.
Yeah.
All right, we move to number 7. So our second par 3, 175 metres.
This here for me was one of the more wild experiences at Te Arai.
This was one of the better shots I've ever seen you play. And it was your second shot, not your first shot.
We played a lot of golf together. So, this one here, it looks relatively straightforward from the green. You can kind of see quite a bit of undulation. On the day for me, I have gone long left, which, opposite to what the channel name is, it's not what I normally do. And I think I would have hit it 15 meters right of the pin and probably 6 or 7 meters past it to then bring it back, and it end up about a foot away from
this is coming back, by the way. So you're probably 30 meters long left by the time it bounced away from the flag.
It kept going forever.
So I had a little downslope, went away. I was standing up on the green and just thinking, where are you aiming? What are you doing, mate? Green's over here. And as you said, you've aimed, what was it?
It would have been 15 meters
right to the green, and just hit this beautiful putt from 30 meters away, and it's taken the slope, come up the little backstop, and roll all the way down for a little tap and par.
It was like one of the more fun processes to go through, because it did take me a while. I'm glad it wasn't on the clock, because I was going through every single option that I had. I had the lob wedge at some point, had a little practice, hit the turf and flubbed it a little bit, so I was like, no, that's going back in the bag. Was contemplating a bump and run, but didn't think the control was there, so opted for the putter, and I've been putting pretty good that day. And as you know what it's like, the fringe is like the green. You can't tell where the green and the fringe start and end. So opted for the putter, and it worked out for me that time, which was very, very nice. Now, 8th hole. This was a tough one for us actually, because it was straight back into the wind, and this is when the wind actually started to pick up quite a bit for us. 361 meters from the championship tee. Again, a little bit elevated from memory, kind of heading downhill. One of the fairways, it was probably one of the narrower fairways, even though it's still quite wide, probably one of the narrower fairways that we had, and an interesting shaped green.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, as you can see there, it's almost a rectangle as opposed to the normal rounded shapes.
I guess the cool thing about it, and knowing that we've both played Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 as kids, it almost looked like there was almost a little bit of a vert ramp there, so you could miss it a little bit right edge of the green, a little bit left edge of the green, knowing that Tony's going to come down and probably do a 900 and get close to the hole. So again, like really, really fun. I don't remember playing this hole well. Don't want to revisit it either, to be honest, mate.
We'll move on. Number 9, highlight of the day for me. We played off where the back tees were as opposed to where the championship tees were. So 512 off the championship, but 457 from the back tees. And the prevailing wind, we're told, is normally into us here. We were fortunate enough to have it downwind. We didn't know the difference. Well, I didn't know the difference, and I've ripped driver straight over the road where normally people don't get over the road because it's straight into the wind. So over the road, and I've had 112 metres into a par 5. It's hit the downslope and must have kicked about 60 metres
Hit
onwards.
3 sprinkler heads, maybe hit a van as it went. So the greenkeeper kicked it further as well. And you would have, I think you had a gap wedge or something, and it was a monster drive. Can I just say though, I outdrove him.
Yeah, I made 3. I think you 3-putted for 5. Well done.
Yeah, story of my life. But no, it was a very, very cool hole. Like I can imagine playing that into the wind and you're just having completely different scenarios, which again is just such a cool thing, knowing that next time I go back there, it's going to play completely differently.
And one more note before we move on. The green actually felt really narrow, even with a wedge. So I imagine as a par 5, if you are over the road, if you've got a long club coming in, it's a very small target.
It's daunting. It is really daunting. But again, when you actually get up there, it's not as small as what you think. So again, just that visual deception was very, very cool. So 10 was a really cool hole, 412 metres, kind of veers off to the left and then heads up to the right, so kind of an uphill approach shot. I think our drives ended up being relatively flat in the end. I think we all hit pretty good drives here, all played it very different ways. I remember I've hit, probably one of my favourite approach shots of the day, straight at the pin, kind of pitch, spun a little bit to about 6 feet or so. My playing partner, lucky he was my playing partner, flared one way right, an ode to the channel. It's hit a big slope, come down to about, it was probably 2 feet in the end. He's hit a really bad one to 2 feet. I've hit a really good one to 10 feet. I've missed my putt. He's made his golf, right? I think you hit yours in the back bunker.
Yeah, I actually tried to use the slope coming in from the left and hit it over the slope into the back bunker, which left me a downhill bunker shot.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, that one.
It wasn't easy.
Nah.
But I hit a good one. So another cool hole, nice generous fairway, and really cool approach shot if you get the opportunity to walk up to the green and see where you can actually hit it and what slopes you can use.
I think one of if we're talking about themes of both golf courses, easy off the tee, dangers around the green, but again, you do have options. If you want to play it safe, you can make those easy, gentle pars. If you want to try and go for it, good luck, but there are some bogeys out there to be had.
So number 11, we made the turn at the little halfway house after 10 at the top of the hill. So we head straight back down for a par 5, wide open fairway.
Big fairway.
And then straight back up the hill to quite a wide green, but you really have to come at it from the right angle. So you and I both went for it and had the opportunity, both missed it a little left and had a really difficult shot. But for where the flag was, if we missed it right, it was kind of straight in with a little backstop behind us.
Yeah, but again, if you missed it right, it was on that fescue almost slope, and I can't remember if there were no bunkers there. A little bit of waste here if you missed it way right. But again, that approach shot, looking at it, you had that uphill, almost like the green was on a bit of a tabletop there. So, coming in that with 3-wood, which I did, I think you might have had hybrid or whatever it was, you had to be really precise, get it up in the air and get it coming down steep, which I definitely didn't do. But again, really, really cool hole, risk reward, play it whatever way you want. So, good fun.
I have great memories of this hole. Number 12, we had a par 3, 191 metres. I think we probably played it at about 180, but it was straight into the breeze.
Into some wind.
Straight into the breeze as you head out towards the ocean again.
Looks beautiful from the tee, you know.
It did. Unfortunately, I took a hard right and missed the green. And had one of those pitch shots you kind of dread, where you've got to get up and over a slope and then it dribbles back down.
Yeah.
I've hit it okay, hasn't quite got up the slope, and then had another opportunity.
Just thought I'd give it another go.
Yeah.
Why not try again? But no, look, it's a good hole. I think it is pretty challenging. But again, you do have a little bit of the feeding in with the edges of the green. So if you do miss it a little bit left side of the green, a little bit right side of the green, it can be, you know, a bit more forgiving than what it maybe looks, because it is long. Like it is a challenging length for a par 3.
It is long, but if we look at that yardage book again, we've got 43 metres to clear, 43 metres to the front of the green over that bunker, which we say fairway, it's a par 3. But there's actually plenty of room there, so you don't have to hit it perfect if you're hit it a little bit heavy. And I say that because it's really generous to all levels,
Yes.
all skill levels.
Absolutely.
So,
but if we can
great design.
bring up that bunker, even looking at the photo here, that bunker looks a lot closer to the green.
It does.
So again, that visual deception is just on point. Absolutely on point. I might have dated this course designer, actually.
Number 13, we have this par 4?
Yeah.
Long par 4, this one.
This one was interesting because I think the advice we got from the tee was maybe don't hit driver.
That's right. Yeah, I think I had a hybrid off the tee.
Yeah, and I think I hit 3 wood.
428, but hit hybrid and it was fine just down there. And the guy who gave us the advice not to driver, hit driver, absolutely piped it, split the fairway and hit a little wedge it.
Yeah, I remember hitting fairway wood and
Almost running out of room.
I did run out of room.
Yep.
I remember I was in the waist area. So, but you know, it's 280 run out, if not more. I don't hit my 3 wood that far.
Yeah. So again, we just changed direction. We're now a little bit downwind, going away from the ocean, slightly downhill, and then to play an uphill approach shot.
So definitely a mistake on my behalf. If I'd played it again, would I hit driver? Probably, particularly being downwind. Just see how close you can kind of get to the hole, make it a little bit easier. Because I made a bit of a hash of that. So next hole, 14th hole, par 5, 493 from the championship tees. Really, really cool looking at it because, again, it's just the fairway's giving you a big hug, right? Like there's so much fairway here. There's
I'll go carry on.
There's that one bunker in the middle.
It's a wide fairway, but
one
right in the
bunker.
middle there is a small bunker which, with the slopes, actually plays a lot bigger than it is. And
Absolutely.
it makes the fairway feel like there's 2 really small ones over the side of it.
Yeah. And fun enough, it was about 300 metres from the championship tees. Again, we might have played it that little bit forward on the day and been slightly downwind. So we were almost aiming straight at it, hoping that we'd go one way or the other of it, which lucky enough we did. We both went left side. But it left us a very, very short shot in going that left side, which is probably the riskier way of going into it. We kind of cut a fair bit of yardage off there. So we both had pretty short irons in. In saying that, again, the deception, we hit them both quite short. And
but felt like bang, hit it, felt like the club, this could go in, and we get up there and it's about 15 short of the green.
We just saw 2 albatrosses on the card. But yeah, no, we were way short, and then made it more of a, hey, how can I not make bogey, rather than, hey, let's make eagle.
Yeah.
So a big turnaround there.
Hole number 15, we have 170 metres. Par 3, wide green.
Not
Now,
very
this
long
one-
though, eh? Not very long green.
I actually remember hitting 8 iron, so we must have played closer to the back tees at 156. So we head back, the little halfway house that we crossed before is just on the left-hand side. But wide green, it must be 56 metres wide. So
It is wide.
one of the wider greens will play. I missed it right.
You and me both, actually.
The flag was back right, it was one that you definitely couldn't go long. So as you can see, there's there's quite a big slope there, but if you went over that, it looked like it just ran all the way downhill away from you. So even though it's 56 meters wide, so that back right flag, the miss was actually right and that right edge of the green because it was a fairly straightforward putt off that short mile grass.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I think we all had a really good discussion about what club to take on this green because, slightly elevated. I can't remember what the wind was doing. It might have been a little bit crosswind
on the right.
for us, thinking, if you hit a little cut against it, how much it's going to hold up against it. If you're going to start it right and hit a draw, which one of our playing partners can only do, how much extra is that going to add to it? But yeah, it was cool, like good fun going through that process again. But yeah, I think we both missed it right. But I think we, from memory, pretty easy pars just with
straightforward up and down
putter maybe. So again, like not too difficult if you want to miss it in the right spots. 16, drivable par 4. Maybe not for us on the day actually, because this was howling into the wind. Beautiful tee box, with the visuals coming back out towards the ocean. I think the cool thing was the mounds in front of the green. I don't think we could see the pin because I think the pin was tucked kind of back left. So just creating a little bit of doubt in our mind. But I think on a calm day, 288 downhill, very gettable, but heaps of trouble around the green. That ball could go anywhere. Like there's not a lot of control as soon as that ball hits the ground around the green here.
So I have to mention 16 is probably my favourite hole on the North Course. I would love to play it with I'd love to play either no wind, downwind or downwind. It was a shame that it was into the wind because I've ripped driver and been about 30 short of the green. But I felt like I had about 70 to the flag. So what is it, 46 deep? So the pin was in the back left. I couldn't see the flag and I was 30 short right of the green and the pin's back left and I still couldn't see the flag. I had to walk a few steps to the right to actually get a good visual. There's an incredible mound that runs kind of from the middle of the green but covers that back left portion. But like we talked about earlier, it's almost a half pipe because you've got a similar slope at the back. And I had such good visions of hitting the perfect shot in there. And I have hit a pretty good one, but you can hit so many different options. You could bump and run it from where I was and use the slopes from running, and you could hit a little nipper and spin it. You could run it a little bit past and use the slope. So probably my favorite hole on the course, and not just because I made par, so it's not like I made eagle and that became my favorite hole, but just visually stunning, looking out towards the water. Would love to play it downwind where you can have a crack. Probably bring 6 into play.
Well, again, like what we kind of spoke about earlier, length isn't necessarily making this easy. If anything, length might be making this harder for us because I know next time if the wind's not into, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get this to the green. But there's so much danger around there. If you get a bad kick or hit it a little bit right, a little bit left, that's double bogey territory. Again, just heaps of options, which is just so much fun. I think one thing we discussed on the drive back was, I think if you go into this round with the wrong attitude, you might not have the most enjoyable round. If you're there to take it very, very seriously, hit only perfect golf shots, this might not be the golf course for you. You're going to hate it. Yeah. This is one where you let your imagination run wild. You pretend you're a kid again, around the chipping green with your mates. Like this is the go and have some fun course, which I think we all really enjoyed.
So number 17, 150 metre par 3, wind off the right.
Yeah, like not an easy hole with that wind. I think in calmer conditions, it's probably a little bit easier. You look at the left side of the green and how everything kind of slopes off, and it almost looks like it's ocean after that. It's not, but again, it's just that you can't really tell from the tee block. But good fun hole. I think I missed it right back into the wind, which was crazy with how strong it was. Again, a few options that could have taken, could have wedged it, could have putted it, could have done a whole lot of different things. A lot more room right than what it actually looks like off the tee as well. I thought I was going to be in waist area or some fescue or something like that. But yeah, a bit more space out to the right just for all those 4 riders out there. But yeah, good hole, almost to build up to the last hole. I don't think this would be anyone's favourite hole on the course, but I think for what's about to come, it works. It works.
So go on, number 18.
18, yeah. I mean, for us, this was really fun. I mean, it's a 492 metre par 5. It was straight downwind for us.
It was the dream.
It really, really was. And for the situation with our match, I think I was one down, you guys were one up. We had to make something happen. So, it's a very intimidating hole if you want to cut some corners and take some yardage off, because everything actually does narrow in. This would be the narrowest fairway on the golf course, wouldn't it?
Yeah, where we hit it. So we had to play this off the back tees, I think, rather than the championship tees. So 416 from where we played it, but it actually ran out 82 from the green. So quick maths, you're hitting it 330 almost, straight downwind. Never think I'd run out of room at 330, but just ran into just before the waist area there. So awesome tee shot, but does get quite narrow. Yeah,
absolutely. And again, maybe playing this with no wind, things would be different. But I remember having either a 9-iron or a wedge into this green, thinking, hey, this is go zone. Like, let's get this done. But again, like green complex, messes with you a little bit. There's a fair bit of sloping there. Pin was tucked middle back right from memory.
So I actually came in from the left, but even with a wedge in hand, I still couldn't go. I felt like I couldn't go at the flag because of what was on the right-hand side. And if it did happen to miss it right, it looked like it was an impossible up and down. Yeah,
and again, just goes to show that you can put pin positions in so many different locations around here, and it just plays with you so much, which is so cool. Again, playing it maybe on a different day with the pin being up the front, it's just going to play such a different hole, which is exactly what you want.
Yeah.
So yeah, North Course, damn good time that we had out there.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was a real treat to get to play, and I have to say, for me, I haven't played a whole lot in the last 4 or 5 years until kind of this year, and it really ignited that flame and allowed me to fall back in love with golf again, just seeing all the different shots and the creativity that you could have around the greens. And it's still going now. So we played this now 3 months ago, and it's that fire's still burning. The love of golf is still burning just from playing these courses. So
absolutely,
it's an absolute treat.
I think that's the best compliment that you could possibly give to the golf course. And I'm not sure about you, but when I play a round of golf at a local club, I can remember a few good shots and things like that. Pretty much every shot I can still remember from playing the North Course and the South Course. It was a hell of an experience, and I think it just gets your mind ticking over a whole lot more than what you normally would say at your home course or more a parkland course. So, hell of an experience. Both fallen back in love with the game after playing that, so it's good for both of us, I think.
Whew. All right, move on now to the South Course, which we played the very next day. So going through the course guide again, we'll stop quickly. So this is 6,256 metres off the championship tees for a par 72. And course rating of 73.1, slope of 131. So
not too dissimilar.
Tiny bit harder.
Yeah.
But very similar.
And to be fair, like my impression was actually the North Course was probably a little bit harder than South Course. So it's interesting that slope rating is like that. But looking at the first hole, I think if there is ever a first hole that you want to play, it's this one, because the fairway is the widest thing you'll ever see. It's not super long. Championship tees is 484, par 5. It is just a wide open, give me a big hug kind of opening shot, which I think we were all a little bit sore on this day, being post first round. So that made it a lot easier for us, that's for sure. But again, coming into the green, a few different options, going a little bit uphill, so a little bit blind, but yeah, hell of a starting hole, that's for sure.
Yeah, I do remember even from the fairway, I couldn't see the top of the flag, so it was blind. you did have to understand and look and use the yardage book a little bit, pick a tree in the distance and aim for that. Big difference for me between the north and the south and evident on the first hole is not as many slopes around the green. Still undulating, and you can still use the slopes to your advantage and things like that, but not as many slopes or undulating as the north course. But as far as generous starts go, we thought the north was nice, but the south, wide open, take any club you want and tap it down the middle because it's all middle.
Absolutely. Second hole is a fun one. I think that this tee shot is really, really cool. Again, it's a super wide fairway, 406 metres from the championship tees, elevated as well. We played this severely into the wind. You know, I feel quite inferior when hitting drive with you guys, but I think this is the most inferior I've ever felt in my life. I reckon I've hit it 220 maximum. You know, like that's
maximum.
Yeah, generous 220 with an elevated tee. But the shaping of the fairway is cool because, you know, again, with no wind, take off as much as you want, be aggressive as you want, or hit it way out to the left and you've got a really comfy shot in. Longer club, obviously, but really, really comfy.
Yeah, and just subtle little things like this. The shape of the green or the angle of the green means that if you do take the safe option off the tee, you are coming in what feels like slightly across the green. Whereas if you do take the more aggressive line and play it up the right-hand side, you do get to go straight down the green. And I was a little bit too aggressive, ended up in the waist area, but relatively easy shot, little wedge in from that straight up the green. And I do remember thinking around this green that this is a great example of why more courses should mow everything fairway height around the greens, because it gives players of all skill levels options. One thing I just can't stand is just having thick rough around the greens. There's a time and a place, and yes, we all love watching the US Open and then battling it out. But when are you trying to make a course playable for all skill levels? Cut it short, let people have options, let them putt it if they want, because for the high skilled players, they still have to be very precise and nip a wedge if they want to get it close. And this hole really reminded me of that, because when you get up there, it's wide open and it's all fairway. So if you miss the green, you can get your putter out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, I hate pulling out my 58 degree when I'm just off the green. You know, like, give me something else. And the cool thing about the tighter fairway around the green, or, you know, the tighter first cut there, is the ball can go a lot further away, which makes it harder for that better player. Yeah. You know, and then they do have to pull out that lob wedge off a really tight lie. And if your short game's not on, you know, you're probably chunking it half the time. So it makes it more adventurous for that better player, but it then also gives the not so skilled player easier options as well.
Number 3, we turn around and head back up the hill. So another wide open fairway. It felt like I flared mine so far right and was still in the fairway.
You were sweet.
You guys were up the left. I couldn't hear you when I was yelling out. That's how far away we were. Really cool approach shot. So straight up the hill, from where I was up the right-hand side, I couldn't see the flag. I didn't know how deep the green was. Should have used my yardage book a little bit better, but really cool approach shot, I think, from your side of the fairway.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's that, where do you place the ball for where do you have your approach shot from? Do you want it to be like the more aggressive, like harder approach, or do you want to make it a little bit easier? I think down the left-hand side there, it kind of opens up that little bit more, and it makes the green a little bit deeper and a little bit wider, which both Sean and I had. One of us hit the green, one of us didn't. But we both made par. Now, I mean, this is one of the more special walks from green to tee I've ever had. You know, walking up over the back of the third green to reveal the view of the fourth tee is something I will remember for the rest of my life. That was a very, very special moment. The views are absolutely unbelievable. And this is, I believe, one of the signature holes on the course for very, very good reason.
Yeah, I mean, 4, 5, 6 are going to be memorable for anyone. Just such a special view from up there. The cool thing about where the tee blocks are too. It is just all mown, and the tees can go everywhere. It's not these little zones you have to tee off from. You can have the tee anywhere and create some different angles, but wide open, you just aim at the ocean, hit it as hard as you can. It's all downhill. It all runs downhill. I've hit some wide in my time, but this would be a difficult fairway to miss.
Yeah, you did give it a good shot at trying to miss it from memory, but you still didn't. So that's good to know. Yeah, you could literally from centre target miss it 50 metres right, 50 metres left, and you're sweet. A lot of it's going to feed down to similar areas, which is quite cool. You know, you've got almost these little runoffs that come into flat areas, so you're generally never going to have much of a slopey lie, even though it's such a severe downhill. They'll kind of feed into these spots, which make it a little bit easier. Green complex was pretty good. I mean, again, like you kind of alluded to earlier, that these slopes aren't as extreme as North Course. North Course is very exaggerated, so on the flatter side, but still pretty tricky if you get yourself, or if you short side yourself in the wrong kind of spot.
Yeah, I think what's cool about this is it's such a generous tee shot, but it's not an easy approach shot. A really cool shaped green with a mound in the middle, which almost divides it into four smaller portions of green. So if you do want to make birdie or hit it close, you have to be precise. While the green is generous size, as I say, with that mound in the middle, you do have to be precise, and only having a wedge in, but you really have to understand your numbers, understand where the wind's coming from if you want to hit it close.
Yeah, don't miss it on the wrong side of the mound.
Most people's favourite hole, I have to say, number 5.
For good reason as well.
50 metre par 3, just an incredible view. So I hadn't played there before and you had, so you guys asked me as we left the fourth green to walk straight away from the green and not look at it, look at the hole until I got back to the tee. And I'm really glad that you guys allowed me to do that, to take it all in from the tee, because you turn around and it's just spectacular. What I really love here is the back of the green just falls off. They didn't plant any shrubs or anything behind that. It falls off, and the ocean must be 100 metres, 200 metres behind. But because of how it sits, it looks like it falls straight into the ocean.
Yeah, it's almost like an infinity pool.
It is.
Well, it's the infinity ocean, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but just a beautiful scene, and it's just ocean forever. And we got we were very lucky. We had a great day. Other than being quite windy, it was just blue skies, beautiful. And the thing with this is it's a beautiful hole. It's not super long. Damn, it's pretty tough though.
It's a tough hole.
It's not easy.
You guys, as you really showed us, because straight into the wind, it was probably only an 8 or a 9 iron, and if you miss it, it's slightly elevated green. If you miss it, everything bounces away. Yeah. And being into the wind obviously makes it that much more difficult to a front flag when the green was probably only 6 or 7 meters wide at the front there. Yeah,
not very wide, and I unfortunately did miss it a little bit right, and I found myself in a bit of a collection area with a pretty tough lie. Like there was a little bit of kind of fescue there, made a hash of a hole that should be, if you were just looking at it on paper, just an easy par. You got 8 iron in hand, hit it to the middle of the green somewhere, make your 2-putt, but was not to be. But
if you have the pleasure to play this course, definitely one of the most spectacular holes you will ever play.
Yeah, absolutely. And going from one of the most spectacular holes to one of the most spectacular dunes and waste areas, I think, on the golf course. I think when we were talking to you about this on the tee, you thought, oh yeah, surely hit it out to the right there.
I will say, I feel like this is a massive missed opportunity for a dogleg right that goes towards the ocean again. Standing on the tee, there's a huge mound on the left-hand side, and you can't see the fairway sneak behind that. If I wasn't playing with you guys, I would have taken it down the right and just gone bombs away, because it must be a dogleg right. It looks like that from the tee. Ultimately, I had it probably 50 metres left of where I would have, where you guys told me, and hit a perfect tee shot, but missed opportunity to go back towards, or keep going towards the ocean.
Don't know if you can play out in the ocean, but that's neither here nor there. But such a great tee shot, because again, if you haven't got a yardage book, or if you haven't got someone with you that's played the course, you would just have no idea where to go. And again, talking about, you know, the different levels of golfers, different skilled abilities, you know, for us, we can comfortably carry 200, 220 with driver, even slightly into the wind. So we took it straight over the mound, and we were sweet. We got up there within sandwich distance. If you don't have that ability, you've got 250 metres of rollout to the right there. So you can play it any way you like, depending on your ability, which is really cool. And looking at the green coming up there, skinny, really, really skinny. But you know, you can miss it to the left, not too punishing. You're probably not making birdie from there. Lots of little undulations on this one I found. It was probably one of the more undulating greens on the course.
Yeah, I remember hitting quite a good shot in there, and I think maybe 6 or 8 feet, and had to play about 3 or 4 feet of break.
Yeah.
It was very undulating where that flag was, but probably because it's a long green, but that's where the difficulty comes in. Generous tee shot, so we can bomb it over if you can't get over the slope, over the mound, you can play it out to the right. But the hole's made tough by the difficulty of the green.
Absolutely. Everything comes down to that approach shot, doesn't it? So yeah, 7th hole, par 5, 522 metres. 503 off the back, so I don't think we played it off the championship.
Yeah, this was long, this one.
It did play long. I think we were a little bit back into the breeze, or just enough anyway. Again, it's one of those, hey, how much do you want to take off? How aggressive do you want to be? Do you want the easy shot? Do you want the hard shot? You know, hit it a little bit left, it's a hell of a lot wider for you, but you've got that longer approach shot in. Hit a little bit down the right, hit kind of the speed slot, and you're going to have a much shorter shot in. But you got some pretty bad waist area to your right, so you know, take your pick of how you want to play. Very, very cool hole. Gettable, maybe wasn't necessarily for us into the wind. A little bit tough
to get there into from where, like, I remember hitting a good drive, and it was still 2-iron to maybe get it to the front edge, but it took everything I had, and I didn't have it that shot. But it's tough to get there in 2. But what probably made it tougher is just short of the green, there's a little sort of hollow. So if you are just short, it's kind of like a little tabletop where you kind of have to nip it. You can putt it, but it's very difficult to control the speed. So from where I was after my 3rd shot, I had to try and get up and down from just short of the green. And you really had to commit to nipping a little wedge and spinning one.
Yeah, not easy from that little swell. I think 3 of us found ourselves around there, and that pin was kind of tucked front left, which does have a little bit of backstop there. But again, because the slopes aren't as severe as North Course, if you hit it up there, wasn't necessarily coming back, and then you had a downhill putt to this pin, which could easily just come off the front again into that swallow. So not easy on the day for us, but again, just a really cool hole that just has so many options for every shot. 8th hole here, par 3, 159 metres from the champs. T, I think we did play this one up the back. We had a back left pin for the day. Really cool shape of the green.
I mean, you say back left. Looking there, it was kind of, this reminds me a little bit of Africa.
Yeah, I was just going to say that too, actually.
Maybe where Sierra Leone would be, if you're familiar with Africa.
I'm sure it's not that good.
It was kind of, so it was almost front left of that back half.
Front left of Sierra?
Yeah, front left of that back half of the green, which was really cool because where that flag was, you can almost rule out the front half of the green, and it, instead of being 42 metres deep, it's kind of 21 metres deep. So very generous size green, but based on where the flag is, it's not very, like, even if you're on the front right portion, it's only 15 metres wide and about 20 metres deep. So yeah, generous size, but where that bunker's placed and the way it's shaped, it's really cool.
Yeah, I think the danger with this green was missing it. Right, like you look at the right-hand side there, it's kind of like the edge of the green is built up, and then it's got this massive drop-off again into some very tight kind of first cut and then into some waste area. Miss it a little bit left, and you're in these little swallows, which just make it really, really difficult. You know, myself, I didn't hit a great shot here. I kind of chunked it a little bit, and I got to that front portion. I couldn't actually putt straight at the pin, so I almost had to play like a little hooky putt to try and get it coming around close to the pin. So, and again, there's not many holes that I've played that happens. So, yeah, made it a bit of an adventure.
Very cool hole. This was memorable for me. Love the shape of the green. Great par 3. Number 9, we have a par 4 that comes back up towards the first hole. 313 metres. I was talked into hitting hybrid off the tee, and it ended up being a great option. So I hit it just short of the bunker on the right-hand side. Where that bunker is kind of where you want to be landing driver. So it does get very narrow. It's not quite gettable because it's uphill with driver and the wind that we had. So you've really got to make that decision off the tee. Are we laying up short, or are we going to go for it? Because if you're kind of in between, then that bunker plays a lot bigger than what it looks like there, because everything rolls into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like where that bunker is, it's the fairway there is so narrow. Like if you want to try and feed one through there on purpose, we did it accidentally, but doing it there on purpose is difficult. So you know you want to be laying back that little bit further. You know, this one here was probably one of the cooler tee shots, because everything kind of feeds into certain areas, and you just have to be really precise. Approach shot coming in, also pretty tricky. Can't see anything.
The elevation changed straight uphill to the green, which made it difficult. And one of the reasons this is memorable for me, and potentially you mentioned it to me afterwards, is I've missed it long left to a back left flag, and definitely would have had a shot clock violation for how long I took.
I was making phone calls.
But I had the putter out, I had the wedge out, I had a 7-iron out, and I was trying to figure out the best way to get this close. And it was all short grass. I could have easily putted it, but I could not see a way to get it close. The further I went up the slope, the further it was going to go away. I couldn't really bump a 7-iron. It didn't feel like it was going to stop because it was all downhill. I ended up just doing all I could to hit a really nippy chip, and it's probably as nervous as I've been over one of those little chips, but also full of excitement because I've never seen something so clearly before, especially around the greens. And I played a little 50 degree, and I nipped it and I stopped it perfectly on my spot, and I kind of looked at you guys at the same time, and there was almost a wow to your face as it just dribbled up and trickled right next to the hole. And it's probably the best shot that I played over the two days because of the thought that went into it and the way I could see it so clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was talking to our playing partner through this whole process, and we could see how methodical you were with each club, and we could almost see the cogs ticking over in your head. And when you actually came up with the 50 degree and you actually committed to it, we kind of both looked at each other and like, what the hell is he doing? But sure enough, you've just hit this perfect shot, and we've just gone, oh my God, this could go in. And we never ever saw that. And look, we didn't necessarily go up and have a look at where you were and didn't kind of see it from you. But in no way in hell were we thinking grab a wedge. We were like, this is putter. Like, you have to putt it. If you hit a wedge, you're gone. But sure enough, and I would say out of all the shots played from both rounds, that was easily the shot from the whole time that we had. So that was it was a very, very cool thing to witness, that's for sure. I've seen you hit a lot of chip shots before, and that was up there.
Never one that good.
No, never. We go a little bit more inland now with the 10th hole. More of a tree-lined fairway, just a little bit away from the ocean, a little bit away from the wind as well, which is quite nice on the day. But, 396 par 4, pretty straightforward. It's kind of, you play what's in front of you. Again, the fairway is very, very generous. Gets really wide at kind of your landing zone or finishing zone. You're normally hitting driver wedge, driver 9-iron, something like that. in. Again, green's relatively narrow, and what I found was quite tricky after not hitting a so great approach shot. There's quite a severe mound on the right-hand side of the green. I unfortunately missed it on that right side. Had a really tough kind of pitch over this mound off a really tight lie. Didn't work all that well for me, and I only had a pitching wedge in, so made the hole a lot more difficult than what it actually was. Probably not the most difficult hole on the course, to be fair. If you don't walk off with par here, you're probably a little bit disappointed, but nonetheless, still a good hole, and nice to almost get away from the ocean for a hole, to have a little bit of a reprieve.
Yeah, I think what was memorable about this hole for me was it's a really cool approach shot. It's almost tucked into the trees a little bit, and while it's a straight shot, it made me feel like I had to curl one in there because of the shaping of the trees and the shaping of the waist area on the left-hand side. But with the mound on the right-hand side, I knew I couldn't miss it right. So yeah, again, another memorable one for me, and not overly difficult, but just some really cool shaping that makes you think about what's needed.
Absolutely. Another beautiful hole, this one, coming from in the trees out back towards the ocean. We only go in the trees for one hole. But 397 par 4. Again, fairway's pretty wide. It's pretty generous. If you're missing this fairway, you're doing something wrong. But the approach shot's the cool one. It's such a common theme throughout these holes. A little bit of undulation. Again, missing this ball right or left is danger.
Yeah.
Like, it is seriously, seriously tough. I remember, not hitting such a great tee shot, having a really long club in, because from memory, this might have been back into the wind for us.
It was straight back into the wind, and I know that because I've had a decent drive, but I've still had four iron in, and so it's 397, so I've probably had about 170 in, and it was full 4 iron, and I flushed it, and it's just caught the front right of the green and dribbled off, and it's gone about 20 metres off the green with the way the slopes are to a front left flag. So I thought maybe out to the right there looks okay, but no, it was really difficult. I couldn't see the flag from where I was, even though I was pin high. Probably 25, 30 metres from the flag.
And again, more of an argument to have less rough around the green, right? Like you've missed your shot slightly, and you've got 20, 30 metre pitch shot where you can't see the pin. That's not easy.
Yeah.
But it's very, very fun. Again, I'm sure you had plenty of options. I can't remember what you did there, but could have chipped it, could have putted it, whatever.
Confidence was high. Pulled the wedge, nipped one again. Little downhill par 3. I say little, it's 207 off the championships. We played it off the back tees at about 170, and we'd just made the turn away, so it wasn't quite downwind, but it was kind of off the right. So I think it was only about an 8 iron. Huge green, but didn't feel that big off the tee. So even though it was downhill, which you'd think you'd be able to see the whole thing, there's a little bit of a slope in front, or a mound in front, which makes the green look smaller. And then off the back edge, almost like the infinity pool earlier, it disappears real quick. So half that back edge isn't in play because you don't want to go anywhere near there. No,
absolutely not. And if you think 170 metres, I don't hit an 8 iron that far, but we pretty much all hit 8 irons slightly downhill. Ever so might have been a little bit downwind, but not a huge amount. Just goes to show what the course can do to you and how it plays so different to what you'd expect. But very, very cool green, like shaped quite in a certain way. A little bit of like the backstops there that you could have played with. Could put a pin in so many different spots on the screen, and it would play just completely different, which I think is really cool. Again, a few nice little runoff areas there if you do miss the green. Not super challenging if you did. Plenty of options, which is cool. Probably for me, not that I played it well, one of the more memorable holes on the course. Par 5, 509 metres from the championship tees. Tee shot is maybe a little bit trickier than some of the others. It is a little bit narrower than what you have been playing, but it does play quite long. and up to a very narrow chute. It reminds me a little bit of the 17th at the Hills that they play at when they played at the New Zealand Open. They kind of had canyons either side. It's almost like a mini version of that. You kind of go up this canyon, elevated green. You know, you're going full 3-wood into this green, and it's way up here. And so you have to hit this 3-wood sky high, try and get it coming down pretty soft. Granted, there is some pretty severe slopes on the green, which you can play with, which is really cool. But man, this green must be pretty tough to hit if you're going for it in 2.
This has to be probably the most unique golf hole I've ever seen, and memorable because of that. It may not be the hole you enjoy playing the most or you play the best, but it has to be one of the most unique holes. So you hit your tee shot, and then all of a sudden you're looking up at this green, and off to the front right of it, it looks like it's about a 5-meter fall away, where you've got to hit a super high flop shot just to get up. But behind the green, it's almost another 5 meters up the backstop. You can probably hit it 30 meters long, or effectively 30 meters long, and it would just hit that and roll all the way back down. It has to be one of the most incredible green complexes that I've ever seen, for sure. To any of those flags, if you have your 3rd shot in for the par 5, you can just hit a wedge up that hill and have fun with it and just watch it run down. There's so many different ways to be creative with it. It was, as I said, one of the most unique holes that you're ever likely to see, and I don't think you'd forget it quickly if you play there. No,
and you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's not going to be the hole that you score really well on. You're going to want to, because it's such a challenge and it looks so cool and so fun. You know, that green is 20 meters wide at its widest point. You know, it gets a lot narrower at the front and up the back. You know, again, if you're coming in with a really long club, that's not easy, but it's cool.
So number 14, we got a short par 4, 290 off the champs tees, but because it was playing into the wind, we decided to go off the back tees, so 250, and it was for context, it was a really good drive to just get to the front edge for us playing into the wind. So absolutely. I tried to run a little like hooky one in there, and it's just visually incredible because there's all this room to the right. There's this really narrow chute up the left side to get onto the green, but this bunker, which kind of sits in the middle of the green here, really forces you to make a decision of where you want to hit it. You obviously want to avoid that and leave yourself a 30-meter bunker shot. So I've tried to run a little hook up this narrow little chute, and you know the fairways are pretty generous here, and I've tried to hit the smallest part all day. Really cool tee shot options, and even downwind, not that easy. You still are forced to make a decision of where you want to land it and where you are trying to hit it. You can't just grab your driver and just bunt it away. Yeah,
absolutely. And you know, it's been the same for south and north. The short par 4s are not easy. You know, particularly what I found, not that I hit it on my tee shot, but left of the green is, you know, call it death bunker. Right, because that is tough. That is really, really tough to get out of there and get up and down. You know, like you said, there heaps of room out to the right, but there's also that big dune there, which if you don't quite hit a good drive, maybe spin it up a little bit into the wind, you're on there, and then you're going straight over that bunker on the green that you were talking about. It is just not an easy hole. So, you know, again, play it how you want. You know, if you want to make it easy, if you want to make it difficult, you know, make your choice on the tee, but commit to it for sure. Very, very fun, very enjoyable. All right, so 15, 374 meter par 4. Now this was, I can't remember if this was downwind or not for us, maybe a little bit.
Off the left?
Maybe a little bit off the left, yeah. So, you know, this one here, again, the fairway looks pretty generous, but it's almost the opposite to what we've been playing. Looks pretty generous, but it's actually a little bit narrower than what you think. You know, there's that big kind of dune up on the right there, which some of us hit it into, which if you go over there, it's pretty tough. I mean, that would probably be one of the only places that you could actually lose a golf ball on this golf course. You know, you kind of hit down into this fairway and then back up to the green. It doesn't look like a whole lot of trouble, but it's not a super easy hole.
Yeah, I have to say, not being the straightest driver of the golf ball, this was the first hole of the 2 courses that made the sphincter tighten a little bit. It felt very narrow after what we've been playing and how generous it was. It felt very narrow, especially looking up at the waist area on the right, especially with the wind off the left. The waist area on the right was not pleasant. Lots of shrubs, very undulating, almost to the point where, hey, if you hit it in there a little bit too deep, you might not find it, which hasn't really been a theme as of yet. So it felt really narrow, this one. Getting up to the green, very long green, one of the longer ones that it felt like we played, and maybe because of the shape of it, how it all kind of sloped from back to front. So it played effectively longer than what the yardage might say. Yeah,
absolutely. Again, not the biggest in terms of the undulation. Like, it was probably a little bit more, again, subtle compared to the North course, but still not easy. I think we both might have had putts from the back of the green. I was a little bit worried that it was going to keep going and even push up to the front, maybe off the green if you got it a little bit wrong. So again, very, very fun to play. There is that bunker there, which is 55 meters from the front. Doesn't look that far away,
no.
Particularly from the tee. So when you kind of get up to your approach shot, you can kind of see that it's maybe a little bit further away, but it's just another one of those things that you get tricked into thinking that might be in play, or it might be something that you have to contend with.
It definitely felt like if you hit a straight one up there, you would find that bunker, but nowhere near within reach.
Yeah.
Number 16. I really enjoyed this hole, 311. We played it a tiny bit forward. We probably played it at about 290, so maybe just in front of where the back tee marker is there. And we did that because we wanted to play as a drivable par 4, especially with the way our match was playing out that we had going. So once again, off the tee, probably just hit a 6 iron, 7 iron down there, have a wedge in, take your par and move on. But we had a crack with driver, and it made it really interesting because the green, it's so big, but with the little subtle mounds in there, it was kind of split into 3 or 4 different portions. And the flag for us was the front right, which meant that you couldn't just rip driver up the left because you'd catch that bunker, or even if you went over the bunker, it was almost an impossible putt. So again, really cool hole, and I think the green here makes the hole so interesting if you can have a crack off the tee.
Absolutely. I mean, the green shape, you look at it and you go, that is seriously cool. And again, looking at where those slopes are, like, they've been so clever with that, because again, like you're saying, those portions, put a couple of different pins in different places there, and the hole plays very, very differently.
So 17, we have probably, there's a lot of cool holes here. This one was probably the most enjoyable to play. 109 meters. One of probably the narrowest green on the course. As close as I would probably hope to play to what the postage stamp sounds like. If we look at the green, so we had a front right flag. It felt like it was about 7 meters wide and maybe about 7 meters deep. So this tiny little portion of green. If you had the middle flag, it was almost the same, but for just around that flag. And then the back flag was kind of even tucked around the bunker from only 100 meters away. It was so cool. And we happened to hit 3 really good shots in there. I think I was the furthest away at about 8 feet. And I've hit a really, really good one in there. Just an incredible hole. You turn around, you're looking back out to the water, 100 meters, it's only a wedge, but the wind can play havoc. You can't really miss it left to right. And while there's a bit of green, long or short, you don't really want to have a putt with some of the slopes that you have around the green.
No, absolutely not. And these are one of the moments where I wish I had a better grasp of the English language, right? Because I don't think my vocabulary extends to how I feel about this hole and how we played it. We're literally hitting sandwich in, and you're talking about sphincters. There's one clenching right now, but I've got a sandwich in my hand. and you just go, how good is it that you can play this hole, particularly at the 17th hole? You know, if this was placed in a different part of the course, I don't think it would be as impactful. You know, so if you think about when you're playing your match with your mates or whatever, this is a really pivotal hole. But again, it's only a sandwich and it's really tough. You have to be so precise. So I can't compliment them enough with what they've done with this hole, where they've placed it, and how they've gone about it. It's just, it's possibly perfect.
Number 18, 500 metre par 5 to finish. Really difficult tee shot I found, because where the tees are, you're aiming out what looks like across the fairway. So the fairway almost feels like it runs right to left as you're looking at it. I found it difficult, especially with the wind off the left, to find a line that I really needed to hit it. And cool hole, you've got what is the ocean bar or whatever they call it at the on the right hand side of the green. You've got the actual ocean out to the left, all the waste area, and what feels like not a whole lot of room to hit it, but just lined with pines in the distance and just visually stunning again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've hit the nail on the head with you're hitting across the fairway, so it's so hard to pick where you want to land the golf ball. And, you know, the bunker on the far side there, you don't know if that's in play or not, you know, with the wind, how much is it going to affect it? I think, you know, the approach shot into here is one of my favorite ones actually on the golf course. You know, it goes into that, again, like a skinny, narrow green, like it's very risk reward. You could just lay up and have a little wedge and make it a whole lot easier, but they've made it that little bit more difficult. There's kind of a mound just to the right of the green that almost just juts into the green a little bit, just makes that a little bit more difficult, particularly if I suppose there was a back pin. We were lucky, we kind of had a middle pin. Hit it left, you're almost dead. You know, you're heading towards the ocean, you're in that kind of waste area. Just a very, very cool approach shot. Very strategic. Again, thinking about, you know, if we're playing match play, 15, 16, 17, 18, they're all holes that anything could happen, which I think is such a great finish. You know, play a Ryder Cup here, you know, put a petition. So, you know, very, very cool hole. Yeah, again, particularly for the last hole. It's a great one.
Yeah, I hit my drive in the right waist area and drew just a perfect lie. I couldn't have asked for it to be any better. And our match was in the balance, and we talked about the shot. Well, I talked about the shot that I hit on 9 being one of the best shots that I've ever played. This one here, to ice the match, it couldn't have been any better. I had 4-iron, I think I had 208, and it has just come out absolutely pure, just right of the flag, pitched on the front, dribbled up, and by far the best long iron I've ever hit. And it made the hole for me, because the match was on the line. I had my longest iron in the bag, and these little blade irons off this waist area, and it just came out absolutely pure. And I iced the match. I looked at the opponents, you being one of them, and the heads just dropped. And I couldn't have finished the round any better.
So we've been best mates for quite a while now. I don't think I've hated you more in my life than what I hated you in that moment. And it's because you hit one of the best shots of your life. And, you know, thinking back now, it was really, really cool. But, you know, I think we might have even been all square going down the last over 36 holes, which was like such a great finish. But yeah, you've just hit such an incredible shot from a spot where you wouldn't expect it as well. I think that was one of the cool things, is that you've hit it out of this waist area. Even though you've got a good lie, it's still not easy, you know. You're standing on this sand, you know, any kind of movement, and that shot's, you know, either fat or you've thinned or whatever. You just executed it perfectly. So hats off to you. I'm still a little bit salty about it, but that's okay. We move on. But no, it's just such a great experience for both of us. 2 unbelievable golf courses. You know, you've kind of got a Ferrari here and a Porsche here. You know, they're both...
Or Lamborghini?
Or Lamborghini, however you want to go about it. Lamborghini, sponsor us. they're two just unbelievable golf courses, and it was just such an incredible experience for us to play both in a couple of days.
Yeah, and I can't say how grateful I am that we got the opportunity to play both of these courses, because we're far fortunate than a lot of people will get to be. And as I said earlier, it's really lit that fire again for how much I love golf. And now every time I go and play, I'm looking for opportunities and always thinking back to, oh, this is like that fourth shot or the fourth hole at the North Course and hitting it over the slope and things like that. So if I do get the opportunity to play again, I will definitely cherish it, because I loved every second of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I can't agree more. And would recommend anyone to get up there and give it a go if they can, if they have the opportunity. So,
nice.
yeah.
Thank you.